Hey guys, how you doing? This is AKA the Weathered Soul, and over there is DJ Dougie. He's got his face all wrapped into our topic that we're going to do tonight. But we just want to thank you for being here at the Weathered Soul podcast. Again, I'm going to adjust my camera here because I'm just late. You know what? This whole weekend and Monday working overtime, we didn't get to do the podcast last night, so we're doing it on Tuesday night, which is kind of weird, but not really because we're always late because that's kind of how me and Dougie are. But we're just old. We get sleepy, and sometimes we got to work overtime and all that other crap. But we're here and we're live with you today. And we want to thank you for being here. I want to give a big shout out to. I mean, if you tuned in last week, at the very first part of the show, you heard my phone ring. My phone rang, which is a taboo in the podcast business of your phone ringing if you're not supposed to be having phone calls. But my buddy Ralph, if you remember Ralph from a couple of shows ago, me and Ralph had a little tiff. And Ralph wanted to let me know that he was listening to the podcast and he is a great supporter of this podcast. So Ralph, you know who you are because I told you who you were and you know you're out there. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. You are one of the listeners of the week, and I've got another number 2 listener of the week, and that is Catherine. And Catherine, you know who you are. You have told people about this podcast. You are a avid listener to the podcast. If you are on right now, I'm going to give you a thumbs up because thank you, because you're one of our dear friends, and we just thank you for supporting the Weathered Soul podcast. And it's just it's been a good weekend. We had lots of things going on, man. We had Easter weekend, and wow, it was awesome having you guys over, man. It was awesome having Easter with the family. I got the family together for the first time in a long time. Both the moms and my second family there, Doug and Abby, came by, and we just had a good time. Had a non-traditional Easter dinner when we had spiral hot dogs, split hot dogs, and sausages with salad and beans and monkey bars and carrot cake and this weird concoction called Willow Glen Cooler, which is really, really good with vodka. So we had a great time, and wow, what a great! It was the ending to kind of a tense weekend because Saturday was a little bit tense for me. The city of Gilroy decided that they were going to do a mattress drop off out of the kindness of their hearts and my tax dollars. They sponsored a mattress drop off at the city hall, and they had a specific time that you had to do it. So we had a couple of mattresses that we needed to get rid of. So we loaded up the truck, and I sent my daughter and my wife out to the city hall to go drop these off. And 2 hours before the place is supposed to close, we got turned away because there was so many mattresses dropped off. And I was a little bit miffed about it. Ended up texting back and forth with the mayor. She said that she had instructed everybody to go ahead and drop off their mattresses there, and they would be picked up on Monday. But no, that wasn't really what happened. And I ended up going to the dump myself, which was in Hollister, another city that would take the things. But it's just one of those things that happen. I'm really, in retrospect, I'm really happy that the city of Gilroy put their services out to kind of clean up the area. There's a lot of great things I would like to see implemented in Gilroy that's implemented in other cities. Like I don't know, Doug, if you know that in Santa Clara they have every spring they have a cleanup day, and you can put anything you want out in the front of your yard, out on the street. Mm-hmm. And you can clean out your whole backyard, your whole whatever, and they come out and boom, they'll come pick it up the next day. Mm-hmm. And it's a great program. I'm not sure how it's paid for. I'm sure it's taxpayer paid, and it's just one of those things that I think is good for your community because, man, we got a lot of junk around here, man. If you're going down the highways, that the people are using the highways and the byways and the back roads as dumps around here because there's just so much consumerism and stuff like that, and there's not really a good way to dispose of these things that we pay for, even though we pay an extra tax for them when we buy them. I mean, there's when you buy a mattress, you spend an extra tax that is given to your city to dispose those things, just like the CRV, the bottles. I just recently bought a new TV, and they charged me, I think it was $2.75 or something like that, for a tax for bringing the TV back in when it's old, or when we get rid of it. So all kinds of these things go back to your city, and those cities should be using those funds to be able to do little portions like that. Like I said, I was upset at the time. I got in an argument on Nextdoor, which is that's my thing to do. I mean, I like to antagonize people, and everybody's going like, "Well, you should run for mayor." I'm like, "No, not even a chance." That AKA the Weathered Soul's going to be running for mayor. Maybe DJ Dougie will run for mayor. He would be a good mayor. But how you doing, Doug? How's it going?
I'm doing all right. Man? I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's a kind of a shame because basically. You buy a new mattress at a mattress store, and they usually offer haul away. Sometimes they charge you for it, but it's like, what is this disposal tax that I'm paying for? It's just like you're saying that one of my big pet peeves is the redemption on beverage containers. That is such a joke. All it is an extra 4.5 cents tax that goes nowhere because those containers don't get recycled. They don't get reused. They don't get anything. They get crushed and put into a dump.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I remember back in a kid, we
maybe 6 or 7%.
Yeah, but I mean, we used to pay the deposit back in the day
on a glass bottle.
Oh yeah, and I remember going out. On Saturday morning, collecting them because that's the way we made our money. That's the way kids made their money these days. If they didn't get an allowance or anything.
When I was 5 years old, I knew enough to go out and find empty bottles, bring them to the liquor store, cash them in, get a quarter, get on the bus, and go to the public pool to go swimming on Saturday.
10 cents a bottle, dude. 10 cents a bottle. Yeah. It was gold out there.
I told you the other day, RC Cola. When I lived in Arizona, RC Cola was a quarter at Circle K, and the bottle was worth a dime, right? So for 15 cents, you get a soda. You just buy one for 25 cents, and every one after that is 15 cents if you bring the bottle back.
Oh, man.
Not too hard.
Yeah, exactly. But now they tax you for everything. And the thing that I found out that I'm going to be looking into more is actually this. They actually said Marie Blakely, which is our mayor of Gilroy, she actually said that the funds actually came out of that recycling tax that is charged to people that buy furniture and stuff like that in Gilroy. I mean, so those taxes
that's where it should go.
Taxes. Yeah, exactly. Right where it should go. The problem is that this is the first time I've heard of a mattress drop off. So, I mean, what about the TVs? What about, is every tax like that? Is every redemption?
Yeah. Sometimes Recology, if you read all of your news, all your bills from Recology, they have, free drop off days at the dump and things like that.
Yeah, I see. I'm an online guy. I'm a green guy. See, I'm that green guy, that goes and doesn't want the bills coming in, so he pays his bills online.
Well, then you have to go online and find those things.
Yeah, we have to do an extra step.
I wanted to say, about the redemption thing. It was probably maybe the early 80s. Early 80s when they started doing a 5-cent redemption in Connecticut. There's only like 5 or 6 states that were doing it then. It's California redemption and Michigan and Connecticut and Vermont. I think maybe Ohio. And so that was printed on the top of the can. It said 5 cent, Connecticut, Vermont, blah, blah, California. Michigan, I think, was 10 cents. Anyway, when you buy a 6-pack of soda at a store, you pay your 5 cents a can or bottle, whatever. Okay. When you're done with those, you bring those containers back, not crushed like we do here, because I almost got beat up by my brother last time I was in Connecticut, because every time I had something in a can, I crushed it, threw it in the recycling bin. He's like, no, because they have to read the barcode. So you bring them
Oh.
back, and they scan them in, and they scan them in, right?
Okay.
And then they read barcodes, and they give you your money. I mean, they give you cash money for your cans.
Right. And I think there's a state law in California that you can't redeem other states' CRVs. I think we had that discussion not too long ago too. When we were talking about aluminum, with that we were talking about the interstate transfer of junk aluminum is against the law, and if you're caught, it would be hard pressed to get caught.
You pay. The point is the deposit on the bottle or the can, the container, whatever, is there to make sure you bring it back.
Yeah,
and it doesn't go into a dump.
Correct.
Or the manufacturer of the product is responsible for getting it to the dump, right? Because nothing gets recycled.
Yeah.
Don't even fool yourself.
I think we went into that this weekend. You were talking 6%
of everything you throw in your recycling bin actually gets recycled.
6%.
Yeah, the rest of it's what we call wish cycling. You wish it was recycled, but it ain't.
That's an amazing stat, dude. That is amazing stat right there, dude. I don't understand that stat, only because of the fact that 6%, dude, that's not very much. And I mean, I recycle a lot. So I mean, even all those bottles that I recycle, they're sitting on my side yard right now, waiting for me to take to the recycler, and I'm going to get paid for them. I don't know if I'm going to get exactly how much I paid for in my recycling fee for them back, but I'm going to get some money back. I've never really counted it, to tell you the truth. It probably should be something like 5 cents a can or something like that, right?
4.5, I think.
4.5 cents a can, whatever the case may be. But I've never really calculated out to see how much I was going to get back. I just went like, here you go, because get this shit out of my way. I don't want this stuff in my yard anymore.
Well, that's the thing here. So we crush our bottles up, and we cram them into a bag, and we bring them to the whatever center. I don't even know what the hell we call it here.
Recycling center. Yeah, recycling centers. Yeah,
and they weigh it. They weigh it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
So it's like, here's a garbage bag full of things, and that's that weighed, whatever, 17 pounds. So my chart says 17 pounds equals, 275 bottles.
Right.
Here's your $1.75. Go home. Because I keep 60%, of course, right?
Of course. Yeah. That's what you do. But it's just like it's surprising, that is it. That is the reality of what recycling is, and there's many times that me and you've discussed as we went across Pacific Ocean to Hawaii. The one time we were looking down out of our seats and seeing that great big huge
blob
of trash that's really down there, and that's a real thing. That's not a myth. It's the
biggest Texas now.
Yeah, it's as big as
Texas.
Yeah, it's a huge area of plastic bottles. It's plastic and garbage,
all sorts of plastics,
it's just incredible. And
this is the problem. We don't have to go onto a side here, but all that plastic breaks down into microscopic particles. Doesn't decompose. It just gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
The fish are eating it, and we are eating it.
And then we're eating it. So we're going to be well preserved. One of these days we'll be well preserved. Maybe we'll just be the new mummies.
One of these days we'll pee oil.
One of these days we will. Hey, so we did some pictures yesterday, and we did some videos and stuff. I didn't have time enough on Sunday, and I didn't have time to paste them all together. But I'm going to change in case we missed it, and I don't have the picture I wanted to show you, but I don't know in case you missed it today, what California did and what California claimed that they're going to do on July 15th. Do you have any idea what they're going to do on July 15th, Doug?
I don't know. What are they?
Well, I'm gonna wait another 24 hours to really look into this. But on July 15th, Governor Newsom just said that he is dropping the whole tiered program
Yeah, I thought that's what you were going
on
to say.
July 15th under the condition that I guess that the COVID numbers are down and there's another
Hospitalizations, new
hospitalization and
cases,
new cases and everything is down.
vaccinations up.
Vaccinations are going up. COVID numbers are going down, and the mask mandates are still going to be in effect.
Yeah,
But,
he's not going to drop that ever. Well, not
yeah.
ever. Yeah.
Well, he's not going to drop it
At least
all.
not immediately.
Yeah, unless the recall gets really bad, and then he'll probably get the mask mandate out of there. So, I think that's the biggest claim right now that's running around the Twitterverse is that he's feeling the heat from the recall. But
he's worried Kate's going to take him out of office.
I don't know, man, because I signed the recall only because I don't agree with the guy. I think he's doing a terrible job. However, when it comes down to the ballot and stuff like that, it's really going to come down to who's available to that's going to be able to take over.
The whole recall process is stupid.
The whole recall process.
Anybody that even participates in it's an idiot. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
sorry. You want Caitlyn Jenner to be your next friggin' governor? Really? Why do we even have elections?
Exactly.
Why don't we just have ballots? Let's see. I got 150 people to sign this ballot. We don't need to have a government anymore, right?
Well, apparently we don't need to.
Why just stop everything?
Dougie is on a roll tonight, man. This is DJ Dougie. This is my buddy DJ Dougie right here. Me and him have been friends for a long time, and this is classic Dougie, man. I love Dougie. But hey, I just wanted to inform you guys that you are listening to this on YouTube right now or Facebook Live, and if you are on either one of those, hit that share button, hit that like button, subscribe to our podcast. The list is growing. We're getting people that are giving us comments and we're getting feedback from iTunes and everything. We're moving up the charts, guys. We are the most famous podcast that you've never heard of, and we're the greatest podcast
people on
that
the
ever came
street
out.
Are stopping us. It's those guys.
Hey, it's those guys right there. Get up. But we are also on anchor.fm. So you can listen to the audio podcast, which is going to drop a day or two from now on anchor.fm / the Weathered Soul podcast. And it's just a great place to go if you want to hear the audio podcast. I distribute it through there because it's free. It's free to use. And if you wanted to go do your own podcast, it'll teach you everything. All you got to do is go sign up, and Anchor FM gives you everything you need to do a podcast. And that's why we do our podcast on anchor.fm, the Weathered Soul podcast, because when you listen to the Weathered Soul podcast on anchor.fm, we get money. We get money, not a lot of money, but we get one of these days we'll have enough money to go to Starbucks. We're almost there, Dougie. We're almost there.
Every 100 views is a penny.
We're almost there, buddy.
Right on.
But I'd like to show you the website right now that you can go to. This is the Weathered Soul podcast website here. And if I can let me see if I can turn a couple things off here. Let me go back to the main screen here, and I'll go back to our banners because I'm just learning how to do this stuff, and it's just it's really cool to do, and we just love doing it. And there we go. We can turn that off, and I can come back over to our share screen right here, and there we are, Anchor.fm, the Weathered Soul podcast. And you see those two guys right there, those two real handsome guys, probably the most handsome guys on the internet right now. And you get to listen to us. You get to listen to us every week on our quasi Zoom call, and we just get to banter and lampoon the news and give our thoughts about what's going on locally and what's going on nationally. And we're going to be making a turn for a different part of the podcast. I am heavily into gardening. I love my backyard. I love to get my hands dirty in the dirt. I love to entertain. I love to make music. I love to cook, and part of this Weather Soul podcast with the way that things are going to go and morph into it. Me and Dougie are still going to lampoon the hell out of the news and whenever we can and make fun and make serious opinions about the news. But I do love to do these things, and I want to teach each and every one of you guys that are listening out there to do some of this stuff. I'm going to be giving you some pictures, before and after pictures of my backyard and what we do in my backyard during the summertime, because believe me, it's a lot of work to do, but you can do it. You're laughing, Dougie.
Yeah. Well, I'm just laughing because it's like, how many people are you talking to that don't already know how to do it?
There's a lot of people that really don't know how to. I mean, take my garden for instance. I mean, it took me, when I first moved into this house, I've got a 6,500 square foot lot, and what would you say my garden is? Probably 400 square feet, something like that, somewhere around that. I would say.
What do you mean? The fenced
the plots, the plots in the garden. So I've got that one 8x8 plot, and then I've got a couple of boxes, and basically I think I've probably got maybe 150 square feet or square feet of growing space.
Yeah, but you're not counting all the flowers, though, right?
And then I'm counting. Yeah, and I'm counting the vegetable garden. Fenced off area.
Yeah.
When I moved in here, I bought this place from a landscaper, and he worked the soil pretty good. I mean, it was good when I got here, but it was really, really rocky. And to get the soil that I have now, which I have every time I turned a shovel over this weekend, I had 5 to 10 earthworms that were just crawling just right out of the soil. And to tell you the truth, to use the shovel was probably the easiest time in the years that I've been working this soil to turn over, and the stuff that I do to the soil during the wintertime and letting it sit every once in a while, and just the nutrients that I put back into it, it's just astounding. And Dougie's a plant head too. So, I mean, he knows how to grow plants also. So we're going to get together and we're going to teach you guys how to do some stuff. I got a great yard.
I got the Adobe yard. You can dig a 2 foot deep, 2 foot round hole in my yard, fill it up with water, and 3 days later go swimming in it.
My yard, no, you're going to get good drainage in my yard, because my yard will just sift through. Our water table is like 2 feet away from away from the surface of the ground. But no, it took a lot of work. I've been in my house 12 years now, and my soil is just fantastic, excellent. We had a prior guy on the show, Josh Forsyth of Forsyth's Farms. I've taken a lot of lessons from him on how to do my compost pile and stuff like that, and I just keep feeding my dirt. I mean, that's basically what it is. And if you guys are gardeners out there, if you guys are enthusiasts about cooking, if you guys are enthusiasts about making your backyard pop and look good and have people over and be proud of what they're into. I mean, me and Doug we're gonna kick back, and we're gonna give you a couple of lessons here and there during some of the other podcasts that we're going on, and just teach you how to do these things. Head? Yeah,
maybe I can get him to come on sometime. My brother Matt.
Yeah,
Matt has had gardens. He's had, being single, right? Yeah. Or a divorced dad, but living by himself. He's had 1 acre gardens.
Right.
1 acre.
Wow, that's a huge garden.
Yeah. He had a small house. He had a small house in Stratford, Connecticut, and the way he did his gardens there was very clever. He he was in a corner lot, and along the fence line. Right, so you've got maybe 4 or 5 feet to the house. So he did about a 1.5 foot wide furrow along the fence line, and just had, probably 75 feet long by 1.5 foot wide, and he had everything you can imagine in there and more. Right. I mean, everything, herbs and vegetables, and
dude, with 1 acre, you can grow a lot with 1 acre.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's had acre big gardens, but he's also had much smaller lots, right. And done amazing things in even a small lot, like just even, like I said, 1.5 feet wide by 40 feet long. You'd be amazed what you can grow in there. You
Yeah.
can grow enough vegetables for the entire summer. And
Right.
even
Weren't you
stuff
telling
to
me?
can if you
Weren't you
want.
telling me he was the one that was doing the cold?
He always does cold frames. He's done
Cold frames and
ever
stuff like
since
that.
since we were kids. And we, where I grew up, you can stick a shovel in and go down, 1 foot and pull up loose black topsoil.
Yeah.
Because it's old farmland that hasn't been farmed for years, for hundreds of years. Well, probably 50 to 150 years, somewhere in that range.
You're dating yourself, Dougie.
Yeah. Well, it's New England. That's where it started. They cut all the trees down. They pulled all the rocks off of the dirt and made rock walls, made farmland, and then they left. And then the trees came back, and that's where I came in. But anyway, there were still clear spots, and the soil was unbelievable. There's nothing to work in the soil. You didn't have to amend it or anything.
Right.
All you had to do is just turn it, and enough rainwater and a little bit of compost, and you're done. But composting is something that people could really use help with, because it's not just a technique; it's a process, and it's a chemical process.
It's an art.
It's almost like your sourdough starter thing. You got to get started right.
It is an art. And I think what we'll do is we will have Josh Forsyth back here probably within the next couple of weeks and talk about compost. This is an excellent time right now to actually be starting a compost bin for next year. I mean, you have to start your compost bin a year ahead of time so you can have compost for the next year. Because believe me, I've got a compost bin that's made out of 4 pallets. And if you know, a pallet's about 2.5, 3 feet wide, right? So I've got 4 pallets that make a cube, and I've had that thing stacked full over the top, and believe me, in a couple of weeks, it's all the way down to the bottom, maybe 6 inches high. Yeah. Okay,
and having the worms in there,
oh
too.
My gosh,
I've got worms in my compost too, and down at the bottom, not at top. So when I turn it, I'm forking up big old night crawlers, man. It's just
they love
beautiful,
it. I've had some big, huge night crawlers too.
Yeah.
And those of you that like that kind of thing, it takes a while to get your soil to where it is. And I want to show you how to do it. And I want Dougie to show you how to do some root things, man, because he does some stuff with plants I never thought in a million years you could do, but he could take a leaf and make it root. I can't do that to save my life, man. But he's got the technique, and we're gonna teach you guys how to do that coming up on some future podcasts, man. And I think it's really something that me and Doug can get our hands dirty in and really become something that you guys can really talk about. You guys can really comment in. So speaking of comments, we would love you to go to.
It's funny. I just threw away all my notebooks on the stem cell cloning, but I still remember a lot of it. So if anybody's interested in why all of your tomatoes, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to Nob Hill and buy a tomato, and go to Safeway and buy a tomato, and put them side by side and not be able to tell which was which. I can explain why.
It's called genetics.
Yeah,
it's called
they
cloning.
all come from the same plant. Yeah,
it's
they're all
called
the same
cloning.
Plant. Yeah.
But speaking of info, if you really want to do and be a part of this podcast, we would love you to be a part of this podcast every week, because you can come here and be a part of the podcast, whether you be on YouTube, whether you be on Facebook Live. We've got very many places you can go. You can go to the Weathered Soul Liberty Network. That is on the Facebook page. You just go up here and you type in AKA the Weathered Soul. It'll bring you over to this webpage right here. I will let you in, and you can hear all those things that I say all week, ridiculous things, funny things, opinions, and stuff like that. All you got to do is come in here, search the Facebook page, type in AKA the Weathered Soul. I'll let you in. We've got about 100 people right now that are signed up. And then the next place you can also go to the Weathered Soul Liberty Network YouTube site, and that's where you're watching us right now. If you're watching us streaming, you're either on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live, and that's where you can go get us, the WSLN, Weathered Soul Liberty Network. You can go there on YouTube, just type that in, and it'll be right there. And you can subscribe, hit that share button, hit that like button, and we would be more than happy to have you. And then, of course, you can get us on anchor.fm/The Weathered Soul podcast, or any of your popular podcatchers like Stitcher, iTunes, any place like that. We'd love you to give us a 5-star rating, and a comment would be great, because Dougie loves hearing about the comments. He loves hearing about people that listen to the podcast. He was on a Zoom call the other day, and he was ecstatic when he found out that Catherine was listening to us. He had no idea, and I knew that she was listening to us because she's part of the crowd over at the Facebook page, and we just love it. We just love it when people recognize us, and we can walk out in the street and everybody goes, "There's that guy."
you're that guy. You know that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
No, I didn't do it. I swear. I was home at the time. All right.
Let me see your ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see your ID, dude. Hey,
Which
what do you
one?
think about there's a whole big hoopla going on, and me and Dougie before the show were kind of kibitzing back and forth, because I get my tidbits and stuff from several different news sites. I got a little tidbit from a website where they were showing the myths of this new Georgia voting law, SB 202, that went through, that Governor Kemp signed in the law, and it just created a great big hoopla in the Twitterverse and Facebook, in every place, in social media, every place that you can think of. So much so that Major League Baseball pulled the All-Star game out of Atlanta, Georgia. Coca-Cola decided that they didn't want to do, that they're boycotting all kinds of stuff, and all these Atlanta-based companies and corporations are turning tail and running away from the Georgia voting law. But as far as I'm concerned, everything that I have read on the law is I think it's just an expansion of voting rights. Dougie can disagree with me, because he usually does, and but I wanted to bring into the conversation, the same conversation that we had last week, about IDs, and about how we get one, where you get one, and why you should have one. And Dougie brought up an interesting argument last week, because I told him that my daughter had not had one until she was, damn near 18. And he's all like, "Why not?" And it was a good question. Why not? I mean, in my libertarian mind, as I am, do I care about whether I have an ID or not? I really don't. But unless you have an ID, that you can't do a whole lot. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. And
unfortunately, that's part of being a member of society.
Yeah, it's part of being a member of society. And when we're talking about whether you're being in a voting law, or the upcoming scary the sky is falling Chicken Little thing that they got going on with vaccine IDs, which I'm very opposed to, which is weird, because I think that you should have an ID to vote, but in the same token, I don't think that you should have a vaccine passport to go do anything. So I mean, there's just certain dichotomies of that same essence of whether you have identification, with whether you have this, or whether you have identification needed to do that, is a dichotomy and an opinion and a subject that we need to dive into deeply. And I just think it's important at the time. And but before we get into this, I want to add a couple of things because we're going to get into the COVID argument, and not an argument. We're going to get into the COVID subject again, like we usually do pretty much every week since for last year that we've been doing the podcast. We've been talking about COVID. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. as much as people have seen me online talking about COVID, parsing out the numbers, doing things like that, I personally have had family members that have passed away from COVID. I have a neighbor that has passed away from COVID. I have another neighbor who is still struggling with the long-term effect of COVID. COVID's real. COVID's a disease. It's a no shit disease. And, you know, when it really comes down to it, my libertarian mind says number one, and everybody knows that they've been listening to me long enough, that personal responsibility is my number one big thing when it comes to dealing with any aspect in your life. And you need to take whatever precautions that you need to take to be able to be responsible for yourself and able to assist those other people outside of your bubble, let's just say, to be able to nip this thing in the ass. And whether you believe in that the vaccine is going to do good or not, we haven't reached herd immunity yet. We eventually will. Whether it be by vaccine or whether it be by herd immunity or whatever, but herd immunity is going to be helped by these vaccines. You've got 3 or 4 vaccines that are out right now. I just want to urge everybody right now just to, you know, it doesn't take much to wear a fucking mask. I mean, you know, you will see me get out of my car with my mask. I will not put that mask on until I get to the door of the store, but I do wear my mask. I wear my mask in there because the store has the right to tell me that they want me to wear a mask. The state, I don't believe, has the right to tell me that I have to wear a mask. I think that all individuals should be individuals. And if Dougie wanted me to wear a mask at his house or something like that to come in, well, then either I would go over to his house or I would wear a mask. One of the two, right? I mean, that would be kind of the way it goes. And I think that you know, since the Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott have opened up the states, their 2 states, more than a lot of people. A lot of other states that haven't opened up are still dealing with really, really high numbers, and they're still kind of locked down. But the point that I'm trying to get at is that even though that DeSantis and Abbott actually opened up their states, their mask usage has almost doubled. Because of that, yeah, they had a full house at Arlington Stadium last night for a baseball game, and about half the people were wearing masks, and the other half of the people weren't wearing masks. You know, I have to applaud the fact that they're brave enough to go out and do that. You know, the numbers, Doug, the numbers haven't come back. The numbers haven't come back as a huge spike. In fact, they've gone down. Now what I believe, and I'm no scientist, but I believe the weather has a lot to do with it. I mean, come on, we're talking Florida, we're talking Texas, we're talking UV, we're talking sun, we're talking heat, we're talking all kinds of things. And you've got places like New Jersey and some other places. I think it was Massachusetts. Was it Massachusetts this last week? Had a real high spike. In fact, the CDC came out and said that the numbers are actually going up by 10% in the last couple of weeks due to people. They're saying due to the people being a little lax in what they're doing with running around thinking that everything is just fine and dandy like we were pre-pandemic. But I'm just urging everybody that I want everybody to know that I'm not anti-vax. I am anti-government telling me to wear a mask, but I will wear a mask. I mean, I wear a mask when I have to. If I'm going into a store, if I'm going on to a restaurant and they say I have to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. If they say I don't have to wear a mask, I probably won't wear a mask. But I mean, the fact
what
is
should
that
happen to you? What should happen to you when you don't live up to your personal responsibility, or what should happen to someone else who doesn't care to live up to their personal responsibility, or for that matter, even know what that is? Because you're talking big words.
What do you mean? I'm talking big words.
Oh, personal responsibility. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Because I'm personal responsibility for myself. I mean,
no, you're not.
I think
what do you mean for yourself? For yourself,
exactly.
And all of your actions.
And all of my actions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. What do you mean, good luck? Opine, oh great one.
You may be one who thinks that they're, or possibly even is righteous in his personal responsibility, but I don't think too many other people are.
Okay. And what do you think should happen to those people that are? I mean, they definitely don't frequent the businesses that we frequent. I mean, there's people that are just not going out because they refuse to wear a mask, or they refuse to do this certain thing or that certain thing. I mean, so to me, you know, if
they have the right to do that.
And they have the right to do that. You know, everybody has their right to do whatever they want to do. They got a privilege to not follow the law if they don't want to. But like, there's no law.
What you're saying with the vaccine IDs. I'd love to have a vaccine ID. Okay, and I would love it that if I could show that ID, I could go into a restaurant and hang out with everybody else. And somebody who doesn't have the ID gets to stand outside.
Okay, and I disagree with that.
That's fine with me. No, because I don't disagree with that, because I don't want your sick ass in my restaurant. Okay, period.
It's not your restaurant.
It is to my restaurant. I'm paying for the damn thing.
No, you're paying to have a service in the restaurant. It's not your restaurant.
Yeah, when I'm in there, it's mine, and everything in there is mine.
If a restaurant requires you to have an ID, a vaccine ID, to go in, then by all means, if you have a vaccine ID, go in. I won't be going in there because I don't have a vaccine ID. Good. When I get a vaccine, maybe I'll get an ID.
Maybe.
But until then, I don't have a vaccine ID. Do I want to be required to have an ID to be able to fly on a plane or be able to eat in a restaurant or go to a concert? No, I don't. But you know what? Like, as Fauci said today,
I want you to have an ID to be able to fly on a plane.
Dougie wants you to have a vaccine to fly on a plane.
An ID,
ladies and gentlemen,
have a vaccine.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care if you have a vaccine ID or not, because basically we're going to get to the point where everybody's either going to be vaccinated or they're not going to be vaccinated. And the majority of the people are going to be vaccinated. This virus is becoming what do they call that? Endemic, which is going to be here for us. They're going to be variants. We're going to have variants. This is that next Brazilian variant they found here in California now. I mean, it's going to happen, and there's just no way that it's going to not happen. And that's just the difference that me and Dougie have. And I still love Dougie, and Dougie still loves me, I think.
It's just like every year there's a new variant of the common flu. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. And they get it right about 10% of the time. But
I'd say probably more like 90% of the time. But
I don't think they get it right.
You get your news where you get your news. I get my news where I get my vaccines.
Let's go to the facts, my friend.
When was the last time you had a vaccine that didn't work?
When was the last time I had a vaccine that didn't work? Probably 3 years ago when I had the flu.
Okay.
About 3 years ago
when
I had the flu.
Because they missed that year.
Yeah, they missed that year.
But the 20 years before that and the 3 years since then,
you know what?
haven't missed.
To tell you the truth, I couldn't tell you whether
that's not 1 out of 10 times
or not. I just couldn't tell you how many times that I probably had the flu and just didn't even know it, whether you had a mild flu. How do you tell the difference between a flu and a cold? I mean,
if
really.
you had a vaccine, you could have had a flu, but it would be so mild you wouldn't know. Exactly. Even if you had the wrong vaccine.
Yeah. Well, still, whatever.
Well, still,
I don't have
medical science. That's all.
I don't have polio.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's
I guess that vaccine they missed on too.
So let's turn over to the Georgia law. So what is in the Georgia voter law? Voters can cast ballots without photo ID. In-person requirements have not changed. This is out of the AP. They say what's actually in the bill, and among the most high-profile provisions in the controversial new Georgia election law is a change in how the state verifies its identity of voters who request and cast absentee ballots. Now, as I read into this AP story that I have, one thing that I know is that they have changed the way that they're doing their absentee balloting. They haven't changed much in the way of doing their going to the poll balloting or restricting access to the ballots via standing in line for voting. This is almost strictly a absentee ballot type of situation. where they have eliminated the signature matching. I have been a victim of this signature matching before. I think I've said several times in a podcast before, every time the vote comes around, that my vote had been stolen from me before. And whether or not that vote had been counted was predicated on how I guess I signed my name. But I remember going to the polling place and saying, I'm here to vote. Where's my ballot? And they go like, oh, Mr. McGee, you've already voted. It's like, no, I haven't. So I've been a victim of my vote being stolen. I was able to do a provisional ballot, and I would assume that my vote counted. However, that be said, that I've also
how the hell was your vote stolen?
My vote was stolen by somebody that walked in and said that they were me and signed their name onto my little slot on the voting ledger.
Why would somebody do that?
I do not know, but they signed under my name. They showed me right there. I'm going like, that wasn't me, and I didn't vote. So here's my
Bruce McGee. And
no.
He just didn't know his address?
No, I don't think so. There's only one.
Do that?
There's only one, aka Weather Soul.
Right, I just don't understand why somebody would do that. I mean, sometimes the people that we bought our house from would like take credit cards out at this address.
No, I wouldn't know.
And we get the bills, and we just throw in the garbage. I
couldn't tell you, other than the fact that they gave me a provisional ballot. I was able to fill it out, and
that is really bizarre.
Yeah, it is very bizarre. It's never happened to me again. But what has happened to me before is that a bank would not honor my check because the signature wasn't right on the check. They actually told me that the check they didn't send me a bounce check charge. They go like, Mr. McGee, we need you to come in, and we need you to sign a paper for us. I'm like, okay, so I go in there, and they say, well, we can't honor this check because your signature is wrong. So can you please sign on these papers? And I sat there for at least 5 times that I wrote my name, and they refused it at least 3 times. And the last 2 times that this was Wells Fargo, and I signed it twice, and they go like, okay, there it is. Now we can honor your check. It was bizarre.
I would have reached across the counter and strangled him.
I used to have a signature before I entered the service. That was actually a complete signature where, we learned to write cursive in school, right? Dougie, me and you.
At least our names.
The kids don't know now.
At least their names anyway.
They don't know what the hell cursive is now, but
I don't even think they know what capitals are.
But I used to have a nice little Bruce McGee signature, all nice. And then when I got into the service, you were signing papers all the time, especially for the first 3 months that you're in the service. You're signing a million papers every day. You don't know what you're signing. They're just going, sign here, you're signing there, sign here, sign. So what I ended up doing was having this just one little squiggle that I've done, and ever since then I've done this squiggle. It's just this one squiggle. It's a large B kind of with a loop, and kind of goes out, and it really doesn't do anything with my last name. Yeah, the same thing.
You might make out a D, you might make out a J, and you might make out an F, but probably nothing else.
So if you ever get my autograph, it'll be very recognizable. But a couple of times, if I was being lazy with the check or something, and this is what happened with one of my checks, is I was really lazy with the signature, and they called me in on it. So. Go figure. But anyway, so what the Georgia ID law did is they just took away the matching signature for signature, and what they wanted to do now is what they're doing is that Georgia new law imposes a new ID requirement to return the absentee ballot. There's no reason to do this other than Trump's lies, added a popular information writer, Judge Legram. Previously, the Georgia law required voters to simply sign their absentee ballot applications, but now they will have to provide a number from a driver's license or an equivalent state-issued identification. But under the But under the new law, Georgia voters who don't have a photo ID are still provided with a menu of options to confirm their identity when requesting or casting an absentee ballot. According to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger's office, voters can also verify their identities with the last 4 digits of their social security number, a utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a paycheck, or other government document with the name and address on it. So I ask, what is so difficult in that? And I want to get into the other aspect of when they were talking about these voter boxes that were supposed to be that they're limiting the voter boxes. Well, actually, they're expanding the voter boxes, which is the first time the voter boxes, the ballot drop-off boxes were implemented.
Where are they expanding them though?
They're expanding it into the polling places, so they're going to put them inside the polling places. So somebody still has to go in line. But the fact is that if you're absentee ballot, Doug, okay, you can drop your ballot in the mail. Is that correct? Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, but you can't no excuse absentee ballot anymore. You got to
What
get
do you
a
mean,
note from your. You got to get a note from your doctor saying you can't make it to the polling place to get an absentee
That's
ballot.
not what I read. That's not what I read.
Or a note from. Well, that's what that means.
Okay, well, that's not what I read.
That's what that means. No excuse absentee ballot.
To me, it sounds like that they still have
that you can't just ask. You can't just ask for one. You got to get like a letter from a judge saying you're going to be out of the country during the election. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, okay. So when did voting become a right? Let's ask that question. When did voting become a right?
Well, what the hell kind of a question is that?
It's a question. It's a valid question. When did voting become a right?
That's a fundamental tenet of this country. It's a fundamental tenet of democracy.
No.
Do I need to look up the word for you?
No, you don't have to look up the word for me. But can you find it in the Bill of Rights?
Don't give me that shit.
Is it in the Bill of Rights?
It's in the definition of the word.
It's in the Bill of Rights.
Democracy.
Who were the first ones that were able to vote? Do you believe that everybody should be able to vote?
Only property owners. Yes, everybody should.
Do you believe everybody should be able to vote? Oh man, you're bouncing.
Everybody's affected by the government.
The NSA's got you.
Everybody should vote.
The RNC has infiltrated us. You're frozen, Dougie. Oh no, Dougie's down. Are you there, Doug? Okay, so I'm going to go on without Dougie, but I'm just making a valid. We're making a valid point. Me and Dougie are going to go back and forth on this. But there you are, Doug. No. The Republican National Committee, they infiltrated your Wi-Fi and shut you down because they didn't like what you were saying. So
I think so.
Yeah, so that's probably what it was, the NSA. Because like I said, we're probably the most popular podcast on the internet that nobody knows about, right? But
well, Big Brother, they're watching everything.
There was a million points that I wanted to make about the Georgia law, but I do believe, in my opinion, and what I've read about the law already, is that they're expanding voting rights, and they're not suppressing anybody's right to vote. You have a right to vote with an absentee ballot, no matter whether you have an ID to get it or not. They will issue you a taxpayer-assisted state ID if you do not have one, and they have many other variations on how to prove your existence, which you probably should have at least a birth certificate. I can't understand why, like you said, I can't understand how people can live without having any kind of ID. And if they don't have any of these IDs available, whether they have a utility bill, last 4 digits of their social security number, a zigzag a scrap of paper or something like that. I mean, do you really want those people to vote? But in that, and I'm making a joke about that, I'm lampooning about it.
Well,
I'm making a serious point here. I says, if you don't participate in society enough to be able to have some kind of impact where you have some kind of identification or some kind of presence in society, then maybe you shouldn't be voting anyway. But I do believe that everybody has a right to vote, because we've gone through the Constitution in this. We have constitutional amendments that protect our right to vote now. Well, we didn't have them when the Constitution was ratified first. The Bill of Rights did not have, you were not, it was a privilege. It was not a right to vote. You had to be a property owner. You had to be a taxpayer. You had to be this. You had to be that to
well, how
vote.
about we just say that now it is? Okay.
I'm sorry, what? Now it is.
How about we just say now it is?
Now it is a right to vote. Yes. Now it is a right to vote. And you should be able to access that vote. And you should be able to have an absentee ballot. But you also, I believe that you should be able to have an ID. And me and Dougie are going to split the division here about vaccine passports and IDs and stuff like that, because you now can go get your little vaccine card laminated.
You know my point of view, Bruce.
I know your point of view.
You can do whatever you want, but you get to pay the price for your choice.
Exactly.
So if you don't want to have a vaccine ID, don't have one.
Yeah,
but don't come into the restaurant I'm in if it's a vaccine only restaurant.
Well, I won't be.
And don't cry about it.
I won't be let in. Why would I cry about it?
Well, no, because somebody will cry.
Know me.
It's so unfair. Why can't I go in? It's not liberal.
Well, then we'll watch them on YouTube and get millions of views, and we'll put it on the Weathered Soul podcast so we can laugh at them. Like the last.
But anyway, listen, I know the point that you're trying to make about the Georgia voter law thing. Okay, so let me preempt you. All right. Okay, first of all, huge media hype.
Huge
criticisms of it way overstated.
Huge.
But yet, it is a law that is going to suppress some voting, not as much as they're saying.
True.
It's going to make it harder for some people to vote.
True. And there are much more. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And there are a few other regulations in there. Okay, like the provision about the water. Mm-hmm. Okay, it says you can have water that's given to you by the polling place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, it should say the polling place will provide water.
Right.
How's that? Should say. It's so hard. Things like that.
So hard.
But it's not as draconian.
Exactly.
It's not really Jim Crow 2.
Yeah.
It is kind of asshole-ish, because they could make laws to make it easier to vote instead of making laws that make it easier for some people to vote and other people harder to vote.
Yeah,
Colorado, like I was watching the news today. Our president's press secretary, who is actually literate, got asked a question by Fox News.
Are we going to circle back to that?
No, this is great, man. She got asked a question, Fox News, like, how come it's okay for Colorado to have the All-Star game? Their voting laws are worse than Georgia's, and she just nailed him. Like, no, sorry, pal. Colorado has open absentee voting. You can have water in line. You can sit down. You can listen to the radio if you want to. Blah 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 blah. And the Fox News guy just and I could just imagine the sound bites. I almost wanted to watch to see how they were going to soundbite his question. Kind of like those Colbert Report interviews where they had like a real interview and then they would dub in somebody else in front of them.
Right, exactly.
Like they'd have this would be the president, and this would be like George Wallace, or like a news guy, right? And then they put in Colbert.
Anyway, we're going to have show notes on what we didn't talk about, because I wanted to show you what some of the myths are on this bill. It's a huge media hype. Major League Baseball did a huge faux pas for the citizens of Georgia and the citizens of Atlanta. A huge economic impact that's going to impact them for not having this game. Coca-Cola, they're just another, and all the rest of these woke corporations
I've always used the other product.
Yeah,
I've always used the other product, and Delta was a competitor of my father's company.
So
you fuck them all.
but you can grab us. I got a couple of important messages for you guys. We're looking for sponsors. So if you have a product or service that you'd like to advertise with the Weathered Soul podcast, please drop us an email at info@weatheredsoul.com. Dougie, did you know that I bought the weatheredsoul.com domain? Or you can give us a call at 408-842-1328. Like I said, again, if you have a product or a service that you would love to have advertised on the Weathered Soul podcast, please just email us at info at weatheredsoul.com or call us at 408-842-1328. Leave me a message and I will get a hold of you. And also, we now have, you can support for as little as 99 cents. If you can find a deal like that for 99 cents monthly donation, you will get a weekly newsletter from yours truly, aka the Weathered Soul. I love to write. I love to lampoon. I love to just give it to Dougie whenever I can. But you will get that for 99 cents a month. You can go there by supporting the Weathered Soul podcast on Anchor.fm. Here you go. You can go for 99 cents a month. And for $4.99, you will get a weekly newsletter. And I will answer your comments and questions during the podcast and even mention your name. And maybe I even have Dougie mention your name because that's the guy who really gets all the notoriety around here. So,
hey, listen, if somebody wants to advertise on our podcast, I'll even talk about them outside of work.
There we go.
I'll talk them up. I'll talk them up everywhere I go.
So that's for $4.99 a month. And then we got a $9.99 a month tier. And that will give you a 30-second read to promote your product, website, business. One read per month for $9. You can't get advertising for cheaper than that. I dare you to go to the Joe Rogan podcast and try to get an ad on his show for $9.99 a month. You can't do it. So I'll give you a 30-second read one time a month, $9.99. All you got to do is go to anchor.fm, the Weathered Soul podcast, click that you want to be a supporter, and we would love it if you are there. And we just love it that you listen to us wherever you listen to us on the podcasting spectrum. We're here every Monday night when it can be at Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. And if you guys leave us an iTunes comment, a 5-star rating wherever you're getting your podcast or you're on YouTube, hit that share button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We just love you guys. We promise that we will be here next week and we'll give you insight that only me and Dougie can give you. So
here's listen, only 5,000 or 6,000 more paying contributors, and we can retire our day jobs and do this full time.
That's right. I'm telling you what, places are going fast. So, you guys got to jump on the wagon because, we're not going to have this forever. So this is the portion of the show where I tell Dougie, man, I love you, dude. You are the greatest freaking co-host that anybody can ever have. People probably think we want to shoot ourselves every time that we get on this podcast together, but you and I both know that we just sit in our backyards and drink and smoke and do whatever we want to do every day, and it's just a great time. And I love you, Dougie. Thank you for being my co-host. Say goodnight, Dougie.
Thanks, man.
Hey, man.
Good night, Dougie.
Community is unity, and the Weathered Soul podcast is where you can find that. We are the best podcast in the world that you've never heard of on the internet. We'll see you later. Till next Monday.